I'm Daniela from OpenCell. Now, the OpenCell Contain unit is a purpose-built shipping container for automated COVID-19 diagnostics. The workflow for this can be split into 3 different stations: Station A, B, and C. Now, Station B is where all the RNA extraction happens. This is the most complex and seemingly the most daunting part of the entire process. However, today I will give you a thorough walkthrough on how to set up and start your RNA extraction protocol for Station B with your liquid handling OT-2 robot. I'm going to split up this walkthrough into 4 main stages. First, the reagents must be prepared for use by the OT-2. Then you must set up and connect your OT-2 robot. Now you must calibrate the deck for the RNA extraction protocol. There are 2 parts to this. The first is automated calibration for your pipette, and the second is manual calibration for labware and your tip racks. Lastly, you need to run your protocol. You will start this process by gathering all the necessary materials to prepare your reagents that will be used by the OT-2. This includes 80% ethanol, 100% isopropanol, silica-coated magnetic beads, and a nuclease-free water. To plate these, you will also need 2 96 deep well plates, a handheld 1 milliliter pipette, and of course a 1 milliliter tip box. Now comes the most labor-intensive stage of the protocol, setting up the reagents in the 96 deep well plates. The first plate will only contain ethanol. Add 1 milliliter of ethanol to each well in your 96 deep well plate. As you can see, I'm using a single channel pipette, which is fine, but using an 8-channel pipette will save time and make your life much easier. Moving on to the second plate, add 1.8 milliliters of isopropanol per well in columns 6 to 8 for washes and 10 to 12 for initial sample mixing. Then add 550 microliters of nuclease-free water to column 5. Lastly, add 550 microliters of magnetic beads to column 9, and your reagent plates are ready to go. After the reagent plates are prepared, you're ready to begin the OT-2 setup. First, turn on your OT-2 by switch on its left-hand side. After a few seconds, a blue light on the face of the robot will start to flash and then remain on. Your OT-2 is now running. Let's connect the OT-2 to your computer or laptop. First, launch the OpenTrons app. Under the robot section, you can connect to your robot of choice in 2 ways. You can either use a Wi-Fi connection by simply clicking connect under your robot, or you can connect via USB. Once the cable has been connected to the robot and your computer or laptop, your OT-2 should be shown with a USB icon. Next, let's get the magnetic module set up. You want to attach the appropriate cable to a USB port inside of the OT-2 robot. Then connect this to the magnetic module and press the power on button. It should light up to indicate that it's on. On the OpenTrons app, the magnetic module should be listed under pipettes and modules for your robot. Moving on to the protocol section, open the automated RNA extraction code for Section B from the OpenCell GitHub. Once this is finished loading, you can now proceed to the calibration section. The first stage of your OT-2 calibration is the automated calibration of the pipette. Remove all labware from the deck, and very importantly, remove the bin as this contains sensors underneath it. Do note that you can keep the magnetic module in the robot as long as it remains to the side. Now attach a spare tip to the backmost channel of the pipette. Make sure to do this straight and from below and with a twist at the end. Now the OT-2 will calibrate itself through a series of sensor taps on the deck. The only thing left to do at this stage is remove the tip from the pipette. To start the manual calibration of the labware, you will need to set up the OT-2 deck as instructed by a virtual deck in the OpenTrons app. Preferably, this can be done with dummy tips and plates to avoid contamination of fresh plastics. Out of the 11 deck slots available, slots 2 to 5 will be used for tip racks. However, depending on the sample number, slots 7 and 10 can also be used for tip racks. This will be detailed by the virtual deck in the OpenTrons app for you. There is also a magnetic deck with a 96 deep well plate in slot 9. There is also a 96 deep well plate for the reagents in slot 8. and 6. And finally, there is a 96 wall plate in slot 1. In the case of this training video, you can see that I'm using used tips for calibration. If you'll be doing the same, you must ensure that the first column for each rack is full, because this is where the tip racks will be calibrated from. Now remember, when placing the labware, slide from the bottom right corner to get a nice tight fit. First, the OT-2 will calibrate the tip racks. It is critical that you move the pipette until it is centered above the tips in the first column. You must check head on and from the side to ensure that it is completely centered. Then lower the pipette until it is flush with the top of the tips. This will be done sequentially, starting from slot 2 until slot 5 for the first column in each tip rack. The last but most important stage to your calibration is labware. It is essential that you take care to adjust the pipette accurately for each component at this stage, or it could be detrimental to your protocol. This will be very similar to what you did for the tip racks. Ensure that the tips are centered above the walls of the first columns. Double check this by looking head on and to the side. Then lower the pipette tips until they are flush with the top of the walls. This will be done for slots 1, 6, 9, and then 8 in that order. Do note that the OpenTrons app might prompt you to skip 8. Don't let this happen, and instead click the virtual slot to initiate calibration. When moving the pipette, you have the option of 3 different jump sizes from the OpenTrons app: 0.1, 1, and 10 millimeters. Now, especially when you're moving your pipette downwards, it is always better to be cautious with the distances being moved. If you use the 10 millimeter jump size too liberally, you can very easily end up crashing onto the deck. This means that you'll have to restart your calibration. The time has now come to actually run your protocol. First, replace your dummy labware after cleaning with RNA Zap. Place your mixed reagent plate in slot 8, your ethanol only plate in slot 6, and your sample plate from station A on the magnetic deck on slot 9. Continue to the Run section of the OpenTrons app and press Start Run. The process should start shortly, and after following these stages, your protocol should run smoothly. When the protocol is being executed, you can track the progress with a log of events as the OT-2 takes on RNA extraction.